Okay, good afternoon, everyone.
Hello.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello.
There you go. That's a Las Vegas greeting that I know. Thank you for coming to today's financial planning workshop, and I'm sure that the information you gathered today is going to be really helpful to you. If you're like me, I was also a victim of the Hermit's Peak Calf Canyon fire, and it was not as devastating as some of you or some other people that I know who lost a lot of assets. And so I can understand why you're all here, and hopefully this workshop today will give you some information as to what do we do now, where do we go. The compensations are starting to come. Well, they've been coming in, and they're going to continue coming in. But it's a good idea to do something wise with your money and not just squander it, spend it all, and then in the end just have a few things left over and that's it. It's better to continue that growth of your income and your assets, and that's the purpose for this workshop. My name is Michael Rivera, and I'm with USDA Rural Development under Rural Partners Network. And before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge a few people who have been involved in the planning process. We had this workshop in Mora as well, and this is a couple of months ago. So this is the second one that we have. But I want to acknowledge Raul Hurtado. He's the Rural Partners Network Community Liaison, and who serves Mora, San Miguel, Colfax, and Taos counties. And so he works every day with communities and individuals and nonprofit organizations to help those communities develop and grow, and all in the sake of community development, economic development, workforce development. So if you need any assistance, just contact Raul. Jorge Martinez is with North Central New Mexico Economic Development District, and North Central is one of our sponsors for this workshop, and they're also the host entity for Rural Partners Network. And Angela Bordigari is not with us, but she's also with North Central. And so with that, I'd like to introduce our speaker today, who has a lot of experience in financial planning. And I first met her at a workshop here in Las Vegas back about 3-4 months ago. And I was pretty impressed with her knowledge about financial planning. So we invited her to come to Mora and do this workshop there. And so here we are today. With that, I'd like to introduce Barbara Lohman.
Let me fire this up properly first. Good evening, and thank you for coming. Michael introduced my name, so I can start right off the bat by telling you, first of all, why I'm here. And the main reason is that, like all of you, our property also was damaged by the Hermit's Peak Calf Canyon fire. In the aftermath of it, in conversations with neighbors and people, I started to realize that there are a lot of questions around. So, if we see that money, if and when we see that money, how to think about it, what to do. And they were asking me that because friends and neighbors know that I work as a financial advisor, a financial planner in my day job. I have a certified financial planning designation, which means I've been trained to understand how a person's whole financial life is kind of interwoven, and how taxes and estate planning and insurance and investments all work together. I've done this since 2015, and it felt to me like there was, when I was thinking just about the situation in general, all this money coming to this area, that there would be a need for some very plain baseline education about how to think about the money that is not coming from somebody who has a vested interest. And I think that is a very important thing to keep in mind. And I have seen plenty of other entities that offer information sessions, that offer workshops, that offer even financial planning. But typically, they also represent a certain aspect of the industry and ultimately would like to sell some of their services. And this does not mean that there's anything wrong with it. It just means that the perspective might not be fully objective. And I believe that, we're living in a world where objectivity gets more and more hard to find. Everybody comes from an opinion and comes with a conviction. So I really am trying to provide basic facts and nothing more than that, and give you some tools to evaluate if you're talking to somebody, whether it's somebody at a bank, somebody at an investment company or an insurance company, to understand the portion of the market they represent, the angle that they might be taking, and give you some better tools to understand where their place is and how things work, and give you some questions to ask. Sorry, I am on the verge of losing my voice. So I'm going to try to lubricate a bit. Yeah, but then I'll probably be mumbling. I appreciate it. If I can make it to the end, I'll try. So that's all about me. I'm going to suggest that I start off with a fairly brief overview, and I'm hoping that we then get a question and answer session going, because I'm sure you have a lot of questions. It is not my idea to get into personal situations. I think this is not the forum for it, but as long as the questions are general and therefore will benefit everybody, I think that would be the best way to shape most of this time together. Okay, so, oops. This is a special time here in this community, and because we all of a sudden have a boatload of money that is going to be dumped into our laps, right? Everybody gets obviously different amounts, but it is something that we're not used to. And we typically, in our lives, we don't get a whole chunk of money all at once. We typically work for it and build it up, right? So it is a different challenge. And the way I'm structuring this approach is to think about the different, first of all, about the time horizon that you have for your money. So that's the number one topic of my presentation. Understand the options that you have in the financial world, number two, and then three, the best way to deal with it, obviously, is to make a plan. So when it comes to time horizon, when it comes to time horizon, we typically in the financial world talk about your needs that you have around your money, short-term, medium-term, long-term. What are some of the things that I have heard people talk about, think about, or even do when it comes to the short term after receiving the money? Some people are thinking about or have already quit their jobs, right? I now have money, I can live off of it, why should I keep working? That's tempting, but not necessarily a smart longer term decision, right? Next one is paying off debt. That's also can be a good idea, because if you are carrying credit card debt that has a very high interest rate, it's smart to get rid of that as soon as possible. But is it the absolute smartest idea to pay off your mortgage if you're paying 2.5% or 2.75% interest on your mortgage? Not necessarily, right? So not all debt is bad debt, and so that requires some deeper thinking to see if that's the right solution. Buy a new property could be good, but we are not quite sure yet if there are some tax consequences down the road from that decision. And then there is the one that I hear a lot about, and that typically you hear a lot around people that win the lottery. All of a sudden, friends, family, neighbors, everybody comes out of the woodwork with a sob story and needing some money. So as much as it's good to help other people, it probably also is wise to see how that compares to your own needs, not only now, but later on as well. Then medium-term horizon, the money, we have to remember, is being awarded to get us back to where we were before the fire, right? So fixing the fire damage is hopefully and typically one of the goals of recipients, right? And that is something that's not going to be happening short term, just because we are already seeing now that it's hard to find people to come and do domestication, that there's long lists for people to build fences again. Prices around that are going up like crazy. So there are, with the demand that we're creating here, that is something that is going to take some years before we can even start fixing, let alone be done with that. You can also see this money as an additional source of income, right? So if your current income changes, or you're in retirement and you kind of had to scrape by before, this can make it all a little bit more easy to make ends meet. And then there is another option that hopefully many of you are considering, which is to set aside a little bit of this bonus money, if you will, to improve our community, whether it is in supporting some of the nonprofits, and that support can then help you again with your income taxes, so it can be a win-win, whether it is in investing in a little business idea that you've always had and that you want to explore, or buying up a property, fixing it up and renting it out. I mean, there's a million different options, but that is one of the ways that the money in the medium term can be used. And then long term, there is obviously the taking care of your property, the stewardship of your property long term, and the retirement income, and last but not least, planning for the next generations. And that is, it's something where you're going to, in some cases, be getting more money than you'll be able or willing to spend short term, and it would be a great gift to the children and grandchildren to leave a legacy, right? I see some of you taking pictures. There are handouts that you get at the end, which have all the slides on them. So, okay, little break again. So when we talk about time horizon and money, there are two big principles I want to illustrate. And they might seem very obvious, but I realize that people often forget about this. And the first one is, how much is your money worth today, and how much will it be worth down the road? And what this chart shows is that if you have $1 today, 30 years from now, that dollar will only be worth about 50. You will only be able to buy 50 cents worth of goods for that dollar because of inflation. And if you notice the number that it says at the top, it says a 2% annual inflation. Are we at 2% now? Who knows? Are we lower? No. So we come from a much higher level of inflation. The 2% is the annual target that the Federal Reserve has for inflation. We're still above that, and it remains to be seen if we can get to that level, right? So in other words, if you get your sum of money today and you stick it under the mattress, in 10 years, you'll be able to buy significantly less for that same amount of money because the prices of everything will have gone up, right? Pretty obvious, but something to not forget. The opposite trend you can see here. And this shows that the return of the S&P 500 over between 2000 and 2024. So the S&P 500 are the 500 biggest companies in the US stock market. And as you know, I mean, investing might not be second nature to a lot of you here, but it is also the best way so far to keep up with inflation, or even to basically grow your money, right? It is not without risk, but it is a way to have something that keep the money that you're going to be using much later in life and make sure that one doesn't lose its purchasing power, doesn't lose its value, but possibly even increases its value, right? Because if you look here you started in 2000, you started with $100, and in 2024 you had over $300 if you had invested them in the stock market. And what it says here, which is very important to look at, is presented in $2,000. So the inflation component here has been accounted for. So if you had it in $2,030, it would have been almost $500. But we've already taken into account that in 2024, the dollar was worth less than in 2000, so that has been factored in. So this is, you basically triple your money and after inflation. So if you think back to the buckets, short, medium, and long-term, that long-term bucket, that portion of the money that you will be given, it would make a lot of sense to have at least some of that exposed to these kind of returns, because then you don't only keep up with inflation and can buy the same thing as you can today, but you actually increase the value of it. Okay, so that same, sorry. That same division in 3 segments that we had in the time horizon, you can kind of find back, is present in the financial world, and that kind of corresponds to those timelines of short, medium, and long. And the three areas are the banks, which you're familiar with because we have those in town, and you're probably all bank, insurance companies, and investment companies. And here before I start, I want to come back to this little graphic, or this little saying that I have in the bottom here, which says, if the only tool you have is a hammer, you tend to see every problem as a nail. So talk to a banker, and he will tell you the best place to go is put it in a high yield savings account and some CDs and products that are in the bank. If you talk to an insurance person, they will see a lot of potential for your money to be invested in annuities and life insurance products, because that is what they sell. If you talk to somebody who represents an investment company, they will want you to invest it with them, and they want to manage it, right? And none of these people are wrong. The issue mostly is that they will probably not say, hey, I know that I'm a banker, but I think you should also go talk to so-and-so in an insurance company and consider a life insurance policy, or maybe you should invest a portion of it, unless that's what they do at the bank, right? So you really have to have somebody who can take a step back and have a holistic picture of what your goals are, what your money has to serve, to really allocate the right portions of the money to the right buckets, right? So what do banks have to offer? You put your cash there, and it is safe up to a certain level, right? The FDIC, which we might or might not lose here, given the current change in the political regime, guarantees that if the bank goes under, $250,000 that you have in the bank will be is protected, right? Is insured, right? So that's a comforting thought, right? I mean, if you go, you could spread out. If you get $1 million, you could spread out over 4 banks here in town and put 250 in each bank, and you are protected against the risk of those banks going under. You also will know that the money that is in there will basically make you enough to keep up with inflation. You're not really going to grow like you saw in the slide with the S&P 500, but you're also not going to lose your purchasing power unless you keep it in a checking account, because that is basically earning you 0.2 or 0.5% right now. Insurance. So insurance companies, we all deal with them mostly because for our homeowners and our car insurance and stuff, but they also sell life insurance and annuity products. They are harder. I mean, life insurance is pretty straightforward. You know, if you pay a certain amount of money, and then if you are to pass away, your beneficiaries will get a payout, right? So there are different flavors, different kinds, but that's basically the basic principle. Annuities are a different product, and they are a little less transparent, or they're harder to understand because there's different flavors of them. But the principle basically is to diversify the risk over a big pool of people that will be passing at different periods of time, right? So instead of um, the, uh, the insurance companies will make calculations in the back end to figure out that, you know, of the 500 people that all invest money in their pool of money, some of them will pass away real early, some of them will pass away much later, and that the calculations will then result in you being able to get for a certain amount of money that you commit, for example, initially. So let's say you get your fire money and you put a portion of it into an annuity, and that you decide to annuitize that product, you will get for the rest of your life, you will get X amount of dollars per month. If you live until 95, you're the lucky one because you outlived your life expectation, and the annuity company has to spend a lot more money on you than they had anticipated. But some of that group is only going to live until 65, right? So they were just out of luck, and they compensate for the person that lived until 95, right? So you pool enough of those odds together, and you will get the assurance, the guarantee that you will receive a certain amount of money until you die. The insurance company just has a certain amount of money to work with, right? And they will also charge you fees for managing that money and for providing you with this monthly income, right? So that is, and that is only one of many different flavors of varieties of annuities that exist. Some of them are more expensive than others. Some of them are harder to understand because they get linked to the investment performance of the stock market. Some of them are simpler with a guaranteed return. I mean, it is a whole universe in and of itself with its own language and its own concepts, and it's in my view, imperative to really take your time, learn about it, and understand the pros and cons there, because it is not the most intuitive product necessarily, but it might work. It might be a great solution, but it's important to understand what you're getting into, because once you've committed your money, you typically are stuck. You're going to be paying surrender fees for a number of years if you change your mind and you want to take it out, right? So it's the flexibility there, that what we call liquidity is not there. Commission based, and yeah, right. So then the whole concept of surrender fees has to do with the fact that obviously the person selling you the annuity has to make money, and that comes off kind of off the top in the beginning. So that's why they need to just kind of make sure that you stay in the product for a certain amount of time for them to recoup their expenses and their commissions. So again, what I said, ask about fees and restrictions. What's important in my view in this, everywhere, of course, but especially in the insurance segment, where regulations are slightly different from the investment segment, is to ask a lot of questions and to really make sure you understand what you're being sold. And then last but not least, investments. Investments can be in stocks or in I mean, there's stocks and bonds, which is what we hear about most. There's other derivatives and more complicated products that are based on that, but it's basically stocks and bonds. And what are stocks? Stocks are a little piece of ownership in a company, right? And stocks, most people understand, and that they're pretty straightforward. If the company does well, the value of your stock goes up, and you are a little wealthier, right? And 7 out of 10 years, that is what happens. That's why that S&P 500 chart had this nice up and to the right direction, right? Because the stock market historically has been up a little over 70% of the time. We all remember when it goes down, because that's when a lot of people start moaning and a lot of wealth just disappears overnight, because it never always goes in one direction. There's ups and downs, and you have to be able to deal with it, right? So I'm not saying stocks are necessarily right for everybody, but they are a very strong option to keep up with inflation and provide some growth in your overall financial picture. The other portion of the investment world is bonds, and bonds are a little harder to understand. Bonds are basically IOUs. So you can give, and bonds can be issued by the government, they can be issued by a corporation, or they can be issued by a municipality. And what they basically are is so you give the government, let's say, $10,000 for a certain amount of time, a year, 2 years, 5 years. During that period, the government pays you interest, so that, to compensate you for you not being able to use the money, but them using it instead. And at the end of the time, you get the money back. That interest can, depending on the risk of the issuing institution and a lot of other factors, typically is higher than what you can get in a CD or in a high yield account at the bank, because there's a little bit more risk involved there, right? So in finance, the rule always is the safer something is, the less it pays, the riskier it is, the more it pays, right? And finding the trade-off between those two is the whole art of investing and finding the right point for each and every individual. There is no absolute right or wrong. It depends on each situation. So if you want to invest, you can go 2 different routes. The older, more established, but now slowly disappearing types of companies are the brokerages, like a Merrill Lynch, for example, where you have somebody that will execute trades for you, that will say, okay, I'll buy stocks for you, I'll sell stocks or bonds for you, and you pay some kind of a transaction fee. Those are slowly being replaced by what is called the registered investment companies, RIAs here, where you have a person who has gone through training and is expected or forced to be a fiduciary, a person who puts your interest first in recommending the right investment products for their clients. And that is one of the, so the word fiduciary, I think, is one of the most important terms I would like you to remember from this whole session, because it is my firm conviction that it's important to have the advice, or to listen to people who have that fiduciary obligation, where they're not tempted by commissions or kickbacks to get clients into certain financial products, but it is just going to be a simple financial arrangement where they typically are paid by. Sorry, is somebody coming in? Hi, come join us. And they're typically are paid on a fee only basis. So if the account value goes up, then the advisor also makes a slightly higher fee. If the account value goes down because the investment options or the investment mix was maybe not that well designed, then the advisor is also, being paid less, of course. But there is no, if I choose this fund over that fund, I get, as an advisor, I get a kickback, so I'm going to put a lot of clients into this product, right? There's no direct tit for tat. And that is basically the investment. The investment component is where you can really go to devise a strategy to grow your money rather than to just look at either a fixed income or some kind of a guaranteed income flow that we were looking at more with the banks and the insurance. So it's, as I said before, there is risk associated, not so much here. This basically has low risk, lower return. Here, you're kind of taking out the risk component because you're ensuring that you get a certain level of income, but for that you also give up some return, right? Because you can't have your cake and eat it too. And then the investments are higher potential return, but also higher potential risk. So that is, if you don't need the money for 5 to 8 years, you can easily think of putting it in this bucket here. If you need it sooner, if this is 1 to 2 years, and this is the in-between time horizon in most cases. I'm almost done. So this is still all very abstract, and how do you figure out how that really looks for you as a person or you as a family? Sorry. Having for 10 years made financial plans, talked about financial plans with my clients on a daily basis, I am an absolute believer in the slogan that everybody needs a plan, no matter what your income level, no matter what your goals are. Because I have clients that have, it doesn't matter, that range the whole spectrum of wealth, and I still will do a whole plan for them. It is basically because everybody's goals are different, everybody's budgets are different. How do you know whether you're on the right track for retirement? How do you know what the right type of debt is, how that's going to play in the longer term? How do you know, this is a very important one, how taxes come into it? Taxes right now are pretty benign and are going to stay like that for another 4 years, it looks like. But is that going to stay the case? How do we need to figure out not only now how to pay as little in taxes as we can get away with, but also down the road? Because maybe once you hit retirement and you have pension coming in, or you have to take required minimum distributions from a retirement account, you might all of a sudden jump up in tax brackets. What that's going to mean now is that you're going to be paying more for your Medicare, because Medicare is also no longer just one amount, but you get penalized if you make more money. So modeling all of that out is very helpful. And I have seen over and over again how clients coming in with a lot of somewhat confusing worries and thoughts swirling through their heads about, I have this amount of money, and in your cases, you have X amount of money, you got Y coming in potentially in addition. How is that all going to play out? How am I going to be able to make sure that I am going to be fine in retirement? I can help my kids with a down payment on a house if that is what I want to do. I can give a little bit to the community foundation so that we can all be, happier and better off here in Vegas. Also, those of us who are not going to get this lottery money. So there are all these different levers that can be pulled and pushed, and bringing that into a picture in the financial plan brings a ton of peace of mind. So the RIA path in the investment world often will offer financial planning as included in their services. The one thing I'll say is the quality of the plan obviously depends on the accuracy of the input. So it depends on the clients too, the planner and the level of due diligence that they do, and the amount of openness and willingness to share on the client's behalf, to really share their real data rather than to just plug in a few numbers that might be an approximation of what is going on. So but planning can be an extremely useful tool that is not just done once. A real financial plan is something that you get back to year after year. It is a product that exists for you and it stays there, and you don't just do a one-time only approximation of how things are, and then you decide that you're good and you never look at it again. I have a few, so I think it's very important to, and this is what I'll end with, not to try to do this alone. There are a lot of people out there that can help you filter through the right solutions for you, but it's important to choose a person that knows what they're doing. So these are two, and again, this is on the printout that we have for you. But there are a couple of articles that will say, what are the different certifications, the different titles that exist in the financial world, and how meaningful are they, or which are the ones to really look for, right? And then the other one is some ideas about how to choose a financial advisor. And this is all I had prepared, so now I'm hoping that you will have a lot of questions for me. And I'm going to sit down.
Okay, I'll be first. Are we going to be tax ceremony?
Okay, good question. What has been said is that it will not be considered income. So you're not going to get a 1099 or W-2 or anything of the kind on your income. However, that is not the only way you can get taxed. And I am still not clear on whether down the road there is a way the government has to tax you on what you do with your money, how you invest your money afterwards, and if you then, for example, buy something and sell that again, if there is going to be a tax that is going to be levied then. And I think there's going to be a difference between whether you're going to be compensated for loss of income, whether you were compensated for losing property. And then we get a whole other can of worms now with the emotional, what do they call that? The pain and suffering, right? So I am working on that, and it's slow going, but I don't have, so in first instance, no. If you're gonna get a check, it is my understanding that you're not gonna get taxed as if it were income on that money. But stay tuned, if down the road, there still are other tax
They're going to try to
subsidies.
figure it out.
Yeah, I mean,
That's what we're going to do that every year.
I'm working with the congressional delegation on getting an answer on that. So, because they have come out and said that it was, Teresa, like Fernandez said, this is not going to be taxed, this money. So we have to make sure if that is a black and white or if there are gray zones there. Esperanza wants to add something to
We're
that.
speaking about capital gains tax, right? So it matters how you spend the money if you're gonna be taxed on
What do you mean by that?
But yeah, that's what I'm trying to find out. So we're not fully, in my view, I have not read or seen a clear enough statement about, yeah, so you're not going to be paid, you're not going to be taxed on the income tax level on this money. That's a black and white statement that can be made, absolutely.
Well, they said that.
Yes, yes, and that is, to my understanding, that is absolutely true. That's what I'm counting on, because, I'm in line too
I
for,
think another way to look at this, and this is just informational purposes, but think about your property taxes, right? You guys may want to invest in some property, you purchase a piece of property, you're gonna have to pay property taxes to the county assessor. So that piece of property is gonna be taxed, right? So just kind of depends on where the money goes and what you invest in.
Yeah, that's not really new. That's we've always
Right,
had.
Right. But the black and white statement, right, the compensation that you're receiving is black and white. I mean, we know that you're not gonna get a 1099 from the IRS or from FEMA to report to the IRS. Any other questions? Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, but did everybody do the sign sheet? You don't mind?
I get.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
there must be more questions than that one, though.
He was supposed to pass it around.
What are some of the predictive equations for stuff like inflation, so like money in circulation? And what are the, I don't know, phrase it,
It's the expected rate of inflation.
yeah, what are like some of the variables used to predict how much your money is going to be worth?
Yeah, if only we knew. So, so the Fed, you have heard of the Fed, right? Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
They have a mandate, which is to keep inflation at 2% and to guarantee full employment. And they try to manipulate our monetary policy in that framework, right? So they targeted 2% inflation, but even if we say inflation, what measurement are we even using for inflation? CPI is what typically we mostly read about and hear about, but that's not what the Fed looks at. The Fed looks at PCE. So there's different gauges of inflation. There's different, and it's a really hard thing to pinpoint exactly. But we came after COVID from inflation that was 7% year over year, right? So we have worked our way down to, let's call it, depending on which of the two gauges you use, we're somewhere around 3% now. We're still not at the 2% level. It's looking like it's leveling out a little bit. It's possible that with some of the measures that are now being considered politically, that inflation might, like the tariffs, that inflation might potentially go up again rather than come down, right? So somewhere between 2 and, I think that the very low inflation that we've had for a while, until COVID, after the great financial crisis until COVID, that will belong to the past in my view, and this is just a personal opinion, based on my job and what I read and what my company tells me, but that those rates, the 2% rate is probably going to be elusive, hard to reach, but we're also not going to get back to, we cannot get back to 5, 6, 7% because that's unsustainable longer term. And then, to put that in perspective, the expected growth, long-term rate of stocks, the return on stocks is around 9 to 10% long-term average, right? So, was that what you were trying to get?
Somewhat, but more meant in a practical sense of like, how do you, so let's say something is worth $100,000, today,
Mhm.
and you have, what you had mentioned before, 7% year-on-year inflation. 4 years in the future, how would you know what that $100,000 product is going to be worth?
So if inflation 7%, after 1 year, you basically could only buy $93 worth of goods for the $100 that you started with, right? So that's how you kind of just step it down. Maybe I'm not getting it.
I think.
Yeah, okay. Yes, ma'am.
How do we know we're not gonna get duped when seeking this financial advice? There's so many scammers out there.
Yes.
Like, what should we be looking for? What kind of certifications, so an office doesn't know, we're getting this windfall.
Yeah.
And, we definitely want to invest for the world here, or we want to do something wise with our money.
Right.
But, how do we know that we're not? I mean, someone just come in and just say, oh, I've got this certification over the internet and be gullible and try out, send them off a large amount of money, never to be heard from them. What are we looking for to avoid?
Yes, so that's an excellent question, and I think that is everybody's worry, right? So there are, the financial industry is regulated, right? Banks are regulated by the,
No, that's,
FINRA, sorry, senior moment, FINRA. And the registered investment advisory companies are governed by the Securities and Exchange Commission. So I can give you some names of designations, and these two articles, I really strongly recommend you read them because they give you a good overview of them. But I can mostly speak for the registered investment advisory world, which is what I'm part of. There are a lot of rules in place for people like me. So I'm a certified financial planner, CFP, which is the highest designation in financial planning, where you really have had a very rigorous program, had to go through a rigorous program where we had to learn about taxes and about estate planning and about insurance and about company employment programs and everything else and then investments too, right? So it's if we have to do a 20 or 25 hours of continuing education every year, we have to document very, very carefully what we advise, how we advise it, how we charge it. I mean, all of that, it is a designation, and the world of registered investment advisory firms is very tightly controlled. They are also now getting more and more bundled into bigger groups, right? So you used to have all the small little 1, 2, 3 people companies. They're all being eaten up by the bigger firms because it's very costly to the compliance factor in my industry, where you have lawyers on your team to make sure that whatever you do it in an ethical way, and you put the client first, and you don't really. A simple example, right? Somebody has a 401k at work and retires and wants to say, okay, I want to roll the 401k into an IRA that you, Barbara, can manage, because 401ks are just managed by a company plan, and you only have a limited number of investment options within the 401k. So a lot of my clients will say when they retire, I want to roll the money from the 401k into the IRA. I have to document and prove that I have, with the client, gone through an extensive process of telling them, okay, these are the pros and cons. Currently, you're paying only X% in fees for your 401k. If you come to me, it's going to cost you more, for example, right? And so there are a lot with the right firms that have the right type of structure in place, there you will be safe. The other thing I heard you will be safe in terms of getting ethical advice. I mean, for every advisor has their own style, has their own level of understanding and knowledge, but they all have been through, if they're CFAs or CFPs, they have been through very rigorous training. And they typically are part of a team where some people focus more on the technical side of investments, so they will share that portion, and somebody else is more into the relationship part, so they will really have the meetings with the clients. But there are a lot of really good people in the industry, and the Madoff type of pyramid schemes and all of that have a harder time existing in this day and age. That's one way to be safe. Secondly, if you buy stocks or bonds, an advisor cannot just sail into the sunset with your money because they are in an account in your name at Schwab, Fidelity, Vanguard. And I, as an advisor, I only have what's called a power of attorney over my client's accounts. So I can trade in the accounts, but I cannot move any money except for to the client, another account of the client's, right? I cannot just get my grubby fingers on somebody's money and be gone with it, right? So there are a lot of safety mechanisms built into into our industry in general. But again, that is if you go with established firms that would have people with the right types of credentials working there. Okay.
I can understand going with an established firm that's well-known and so on, but let's say somebody approaches me and they have a business card, and anybody can print a business card and put whatever they want in it. And if I put my name on the business card, put CFP on it, that's certified financial planner. What should a person do to verify that they actually are certified? Is there a website?
Google. So, yeah,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
yeah, okay, sorry, I went off the
Yeah,
wrong side.
that's fine.
Yeah. So Google them. There is a advisor, what's that called? So on the FINRA side, there is an advisor, broker check. Yes, exactly. That's the word. Thank you. Where so if somebody has had any issues with a client, it has to be disclosed there. If you're on the SEC side, before you go into any deal with somebody, you get documentation on the firm and on the advisors. And we have to share what is called an ADV, which is what we file with the Securities and Exchange Commission. In there's a description of the advisor. If there ever were any issues in arbitration or whatever else, it has to be disclosed there. So there's a lot of, you have to make sure that they're, not just some fly-by-night, print it yourself, but somebody that is part and that you can find as a member of that organization online. And if it's a broker, definitely use a broker check. Yeah. Sure.
Can you provide any information on putting the money into a trust? Is that something that is covered by a bank, insurance, or investment, or is it something?
That's an estate planner. So if you are, a trust is basically a legal mechanism to structure the ownership of money. And that is, so if you, the people that, I think for a lot of people here, it is going to be important as a next step once they have more clarity around the money, is to then think about legacy and how do we deal with it in this generation? How does that go on to the next generation? That is when you set up trusts where one person can, for example, the trustee can decide on behalf of a bigger group how to do things and structure it in a way that you don't necessarily give outright ownership to a next generation, but control what they can do over how much time, et cetera, et cetera. So that is really an estate planning mechanism. And so, the trust can hold land, the trust can hold houses, the trust can hold bank accounts. So it can be, it's a legal entity that will, that can control your legacy.
And do you know what the tax rules are And that would just, would the money be still tax exempt?
Yeah, so you have two kinds of trusts. You have revocable and irrevocable trusts. And as the name says, a revocable trust is still, the trust, the person who put the funds into the trust can still change everything about the trust. So then that is just linked to their tax ID, and that doesn't get treated any differently for tax purposes. If it's an irrevocable trust, then that entity, the rules around that entity cannot be changed. And those irrevocable trusts have very unfavorable tax brackets. So as soon as you start to generate some income in irrevocable trusts, it gets taxed very quickly at very high rates.
And do you do something like that, Barbara?
I do not.
Okay.
I'm not smart enough for that, but there are people.
But, also, Barbara, you didn't really touch on, investing our money into properties, because that's the way you should go. But that, since my parents and my grandparents, they always invested into properties, because then you can, sell it down the road for more money maybe, or doesn't mean necessarily here, but somewhere, invest in properties, and you didn't touch that.
No, it is one of many options. And if there's one thing that I'm a firm believer in and I've learned, other than go to a fiduciary, it is diversification. So never do just one thing. Because yes, real estate has been good, but real estate also has had slumps. And real estate is not liquid, right? So if you get the money and you put it all in properties, and then all of a sudden you get some kind of health event and you would need for treatment, you need to go to Mayo Clinic and it's going to cost a ton of money, and you really want to do that because you can get better again, then you'll have to liquidate a piece of property to have the money available, and it might be the wrong time, and you're going to have to pay taxes and all of that. So yes, real estate is tends to be a lucrative, or it keeps up with inflation typically too, right? So real estate is a good way to invest some of your money. And I would love to have more of the properties around here be spruced up and have all of us reinvest in them again, but not as it's the solution to everything.
But you want to get insurance before you put in the property, that's what you're trying to say, right? You want to make sure that you have for if you get sick or something, but, I've always thought that property is the way to go. I don't like anyone to be paying with my money except me, that's what it is. I don't believe in gambling, I don't believe in casinos, and I don't believe in anyone, if I'm gonna lose my money, I'm gonna lose it myself, I don't want someone else to lose it. I remember there was a joke one time my dad said, he said, you know what, the person called me and said, we lost money. He said, what do you mean, we lost money? I lost money. I think you lost my money. So it's a really big gamble. It's scary to do that, and we're not really that kind of culture. We're Spanish people, we don't do that. I mean, we really necessarily don't do that. We put money in properties. We're property owners.
Or under our mattresses.
Huh?
Or under our mattresses.
Or, I don't know that where I live, but I money in the
But your long-term real estate returns don't measure up to the long-term stock market returns. And so to me, it is just like, there's certain things that I know that I can do, and then there's certain things that I just know are outside of my bailiwick, right? So, and for that, you hire a person to help you with that. And that's again, coming back to this, I mean, I think that maybe just considering to have a portion of what you're going to be getting to not go into real estate and get the right type of person, of advisor, to guide you in how to invest. But so you're going to interview somebody like that, right? So you're going to interview somebody who comes in and says, I can help you with your money, and I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread, right? So what are you going to ask that person? Well, yeah, okay. So that's valid. How much are you going to charge me? How long have you been doing? What are your certifications?
Yeah.
How long have you been doing it? What have your returns been like? Can I talk to a few of your clients? I mean, those are all, I mean, you really do your due diligence, right? You don't just go by with the first, and typically our industry is full of males, so you don't go with the first, hotshot male that comes in and talks to you and talks like straight over your head, and you think, oh, he must be very smart, so he must be going to be making me a lot of money. You just do your due diligence, and that is that second article, how to choose a financial advisor. I mean, ask the right questions and inform yourself. But it is, I think, because yes, if you have rental real estate, that'll also pay you an income, right? But investing in the stock market, just, stocks pay dividends. So you can just get a additional income stream without even having to sell them from a mix of stocks and bonds, right?
What, isn't a CD better than a stock market, doing the CD? The CD, you have your money and they're paying you, but the bank is paying your money, yes. But you still get a percentage at the end of the year. At least you still have your money.
Yes.
As I remember.
The banks invest, they're not playing with your money, they're investing your money, right? They're lending your money out. Yeah.
Barbara, I think Shane had a comment or question, your hand up was earlier? No?
No, I
Okay, oh.
But so the comparison between the CD and the stock market is that on the CD proportionately, right? If you take average annual returns, your CD will pay you 2 to 3%, and the stock market will pay you 7 to 8%, right? That's the difference. Over longer terms. Yes, you had a question.
On the FDIC, you mentioned that earlier, and I have heard rumblings about the new administration might change.
Yes.
What have you? Do you have
I read in the
more
Wall Street
insight
Journal.
than-
Yeah, I don't know any more than that because this is all just still Trump being Trump. I'm going to be very politically correct here. And so, but I just read in the Wall Street Journal that there are some ideas floating around to just do away with FDIC insurance altogether.
That would create like havoc, okay, we have all this cash and, it's not insured.
Just because, so you hear that in the history of our country, banks have been known to go under, right? Because that is the whole thing that you have to be worried about, right? And one thing to remember about the banks here in Vegas now, I mean, they're, not that they're just going under at all, but we're going to get a little bit of a lopsided situation where all of you are going to be carrying your money to the banks and are going to be paying off your mortgages. So the bank's balance sheets, assets and liabilities are going to be totally out of whack, right? So I think that might impact to some extent what they will be paying you for your savings, because they really are not all that eager to get a lot more savings, because if nobody is borrowing from them, then they can't make money on that, right? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I understand that when you get paid, your money will get deposited into an account.
Mhm.
So how is that going to affect my account or?
You'll all of a sudden have probably a few more zeros. Right? There probably will be a few more zeros in there, right? Yeah, right.
Your debit card will work every time you go to.
Would it be good to leave it there or move it out right away or?
So if you leave it all there, obviously it depends on how much you get, right?
Right.
But if you leave it all there, it is going to basically stay at the same level minus what you spent. You're not going to earn anything on your money because a checking account, which is what it's coming into, is not paying basically any interest, right? Even if you get $1 million in there, what that pays you in interest is still going to be pretty negligible. So it's not wise to keep all of that in there only. One, it doesn't pay you anything. Two, it will not be insured because it's only $250,000 at a time, right? So that's when you start thinking about, okay, how much of this am I going to need here right away? How much of it am I going to really maybe want to leave for my grandkids in one way, shape, or form? How much am I going to need in the next 2 to 3 years to rebuild we planned, do whatever I need to do to my property. So that's when you start thinking about your buckets, and then your buckets kind of determine where you then transfer the money to, right? And
Along those lines, the FDIC will insure your account up to $250,000. For those of you that are getting more than $250,000, you might think about just having separate accounts in separate banks. Would that work?
that works, yes. And if you're within the same bank, but you also have a partner, you can have an individual account with 250, and then you can have a joint account with 250, and they both will be insured, right? But I saw a bunch of hands coming up in the back, yes.
If you had to share your money with family,
Mhm.
you don't get taxed because it's on you, but then you have to give to them, do they get taxed?
No.
Not necessarily, no.
Capital gains?
No, even if this was just your own money, even if you were worth, just through hard work, you were worth, $1 million, and you decided to give every family member $50,000, they do not get taxed. You do not get taxed on gifts, and we have a tax specialist here, I happen to know, so he will tell me when I'm wrong. But So no, it is not taxed. The recipient does not get taxed.
Is there a limit?
So this is actually a very good question, and I'm hoping you can help me here. But so there is a limit that all of us can gift another person, family member or not, without having to report it to the IRS. That limit is $18,000 per year, from you to me. Not from you to me, the other way around. If you go above that, if you go above that, you just have to file a form. You can give somebody $1 million. The only thing you have to say is to the IRS when you file your taxes, I gave this person this much money. Still, that person does not pay any taxes over it. But you, at the end of your life, have to kind of make up or the IRS decides how much money you leave at the end of your life, and there's a limit to what you can leave before you have to pay 40% of estate taxes. And that limit right now is $12 million per person. So there's very few people that run into that. But if you gift that $1 million while you're alive, that counts against those 12 million. So that's why you need to report it. So the IRS keeps a tally on what you've been given, what you have given people while you were alive, and then what you leave behind when you die. And if the total of those two is more than currently almost $13 million, 12 point something, then the excess over that amount gets levied the 40% estate tax. But 12 million is a very high amount, so even with all the money that we're going to get, I think that there might not be very many people here that will get that. Esperanza, did you have a?
Is it true that there's no taxes on beneficiaries for insurance products, life insurance in general?
Life insurance payouts are also not taxed. That's correct. Mm-hmm.
Did you have a question way far back?
No, I just had a comment. I really appreciate your time for today. This is a poor community, and this is a huge windfall.
Yes.
And I find it very disconcerting that a lot of my neighbors are spending their resources on new trucks and tractors, items that are
Losing their value the day after they bought it. Yeah.
very, very quickly. So
Yes.
I find this to be really important. But also, I hear a lot of rumors. I think it's important to be very conservative until we see the change in government. We hear stories of them doing away with certain agencies, the FDIC, even rumors of doing away with FEMA. And so I just really wanted to comment on how appreciated you are this evening. So so I hope you make yourself available.
I will, and please spread the word. I will do this again if there's a need. I feel extremely strongly. I've been a full-time, part-time member of this community for a long time. I will spend the rest of my life in this community.
Great.
I realize that there's not a lot of people that have my skills and my training, and I want to be I want to be useful. I want to be of help, and I think it is my I was going to say I'm fortunate that I don't have to do this because I need to sell you something, right? Because I'm pitching something. I can just really, I feel like I have objectivity, and I think that is what you need mostly now. So I'm thinking about starting maybe a class, like a Finance 101 type of thing through Luna. Maybe make financial planning services available. I still have to first get rid of my professional. I have to decrease my professional workload. But I'm in intention and in ideas. I'm definitely ramping up to do more of this. I don't know if my information came out on those handouts. If not, I can give you. Was it in the footnotes? Okay, sorry, yeah.
What happens to that 18,000 gift?
Yeah.
If I give 18,000 to my son, can we give 18,000 to my daughter-in-law?
Yes,
And my grandchild, and my
Yes.
other grandchild, and
Yes.
even if they're part of the same
Yes.
household?
per person. And you can do 36, the two of you. If you're married and you file jointly, you can do 36 to each of those individuals.
Oh, wow.
We can't give the money to myself.
No, but why would you? Why would you?
We raise the taxes, you don't have to pay taxes.
Yes, right. I'm always getting away from paying taxes. Now.
Yeah, so taxes, I do want to make a plea though, since we're in December and the giving time of the year, and I know most of you haven't seen the money yet, but also, think about if you're thinking about giving and family members and people you know is extremely important, but then also there's some very, very worthwhile causes, nonprofits in this community, that charitable causes, yes, that would greatly benefit, and sometimes that can help you with your taxes if you do so.
Unfortunately, I see a lot of our money going to big box stores.
Yeah.
I don't see it staying in the community with small businesses, where ideally it should go. I was talking to the manager at Tractor Supply, and mid-November, they were the third leading store in America.
In the country, yes.
And that's because all the money is going to the big box stores. And this could potentially change our community in a very positive way. So we also need to encourage supporting the local.
So how do we do that? Because that is, part of my effort here too is to say, keep to try to encourage people to keep it here and support the community. This can be a pivotal moment for our Mora Vegas area.
That every dollar goes to the community 7 times. So
Right.
we have a huge impact.
Or into Albuquerque to the car dealership.
We have one down here and one in the.
Sorry, you kept track, okay?
Can we use you
James.
as a personal financial advisor? That's why.
So my issue right now is,
Personal financial advisor, that's why.
so my issue right now is that I cannot do that. And I have to be separated from my company for a year before I can do any of those things. So that's why I will do things pro bono. But I haven't fully set up that formula yet. But keep my contact information. I will be doing more general outreach and figure out a way to carve out some time for individual conversations and plans if I can.
Well, you answered that.
I just wanted to mention that we'll probably, I think we'll keep this online so that if you can tell people to search Las Vegas Financial Workshop on YouTube, and this whole presentation will be on there along with the slides. We should be able to.
Thanks for doing that.
We're okay to do that.
Yeah.
There is also,
So that's on Carlos.
there is also a local established business that does this as well. Just saying.
Yeah, that was getting wild, I was gonna say, there's no really, mom and pops anymore, or any really local to put money into. I mean, we're, you know, Walmart out there, every day, I mean, they closed everything down, and everything's still closing down.
It's going to take a concerted effort of a lot of us to, you know, kind of reverse that trend and to get smaller businesses going again. And to, I mean, we're not going to get Walmart out of here, and I don't know that we need to, but to encourage, you know, smaller initiatives and small businesses again. I think this, to me, just numbers wise, this should be the opportunity for that to happen. But it's going to take a lot of awareness, and it's going to take a lot of people having that intention.
I'd like to make a comment about some of what you were talking about real estate, some of what you're talking about big box stores and things. I am from Mora, and in Mora, there's only 3 places you can really spend your money. That's a Dollar General, which just opened up, Family Dollar, and Allsup's. Who's making money there? The stockholders who own stock in those companies, those corporations, somewhere out of state. All this money is being drained out of our community, and that happens here in Las Vegas too. So how do we change that? And we're talking about investing in real estate. To me, I'm a big advocate of investing in real estate, but it has to be the right real estate. If you want, you can make it a long-term investment or a short-term investment. Long-term is you hang out to it for 10, 20 years and then you want to sell it. Or a short-term where you buy a lot here in town, but you turn it into a business, you do something with it. And I like the low-maintenance type businesses that are out there. I don't own any yet, but I want to. Things like self-storage or RV park or RV storage type of businesses. That's how you turn that real estate into a money-making venture. But even still, you can do other things. I mean, you can put a building on it, start some kind of business, or lease that building out to somebody else who's going to start a business in that place, and that money circulates here. We need to keep that money circulating here in Las Vegas and Mora as many times as we possibly can. And I know a lot of people have bought cars and replaced old pickups and things, and that's great. I mean, but that money's going out. But they do need those kinds of things in their families and their households. But how do we change that? And that's what we're talking about, maybe investing in your community, but it's an investment in yourself as well, because you're doing it not just for yourself, but you're doing something for the
So when you
community.
say invest in your community, how do you invest in you? You just can't say, invest in your community, you have to say, well, where do you invest it? How do you do it? Where?
I thought that's what this was gonna kind of be about.
Yeah.
How
do
we're
you
gonna keep this windfall in the community.
You know, something else that's really popular now is bed and breakfast. If you see a home that you want to invest in and you think it's a good place to start a business or something, a bed and breakfast is a good way to do it. I owned one in Mora at one time, and I owned another one in Albuquerque. But those bed and breakfasts were paying my mortgage 20 times over.
Airbnbs are changing, they're changing, the rules are changing the big time. I have, you know, properties too, and they're getting really strict on them too, you know.
That is a good investment, but it has to be sort of a destination city, so how do we make Vegas a destination city?
And that is, and to your point of you had hoped for more concrete tips about, but you know, so if there is no company here in town that does real investment management, right? You have to go to Santa Fe or even, you know, more likely Albuquerque for that. So we're having a little bit of a, or in a quandary, I would say, and I don't think for every dollar we can just make sure that we spend it locally. I think that's just that's a pipe dream, right? But if we have the awareness and we try to focus on that as much as possible, that already will trigger some change. It's not gonna happen instantly. And I don't know, maybe we need to have some conversations with our, you know, our county and our city government too about, you know, how.
Economic development.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest, so like when you do go to a financial planner or wherever you go to, you tell them, one of my priorities is to benefit the community. This is the idea that that's like a priority, so they can guide you in that direction, right? We have to do a broad overview, and we can't really be too specific, and we want to be impartial to everything. So, but when you do go to that financial planner, tell them, these are my priorities, this is what I want. I want to benefit, San Miguel County, I want to benefit Moore County, I want to do business, and I want property, and they can kind of guide you in that direction, right? And that's my understanding. If you tell them, this is a priority for me.
Yeah, it's really hard to localize investments to that extent, right? I mean, even if somebody yeah.
Well, you just don't want to throw it away. Hey, oh, here's the money, well, I don't know where my money's going, come on. You can just throw some money and say, do whatever you want, with it, So you gotta know what you're throwing it to.
And
Mhm.
I think one way to start locally is with our financial planners that we have locally. We have one on the plaza, if I'm not mistaken, and I know on Bridge Street.
And I can speak for that one because I am the owner of Casa
Yeah.
Financial Services. So Las Vegas does have a company that manages investments.
What is it called?
Casa Esperanza Services, and I'm the owner.
Yeah, she's
I'm
the
the owner,
owner,
and I have people who work with me.
and that's local.
And what are your credentials?
So I am, me primarily, I am an insurance broker, but I'm also an advanced market specialist. So my specialties are in the financial industry of insurance. So I'm trained and skilled to learn the advanced markets of the industry. So like investments, like the annuities, like life insurance, cash value life insurance, those are my specialties. But I did start another company to help with this whole, everything that was going on. That is me. I ended up hiring people. I ended up hiring a licensed fiduciary so that way he can sit with people. I have this state.
Sorry, I didn't get a license, what?
The licensed fiduciary.
Fiduciary?
Yeah. So he's licensed. I have estate attorneys. I have estate attorneys that sit with those trusts now. We are a full holistic financial service agency. I specialize in insurance. I do. That's what my license is. I'm licensed in health, but I specialize in life because I love it.
Like,
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Yeah, that's what I choose to do.
And to finish my comment, the other second one locally is Cisco Rubio. So we have local people invest, that's a good place to start investing.
Which-
I think the point that Barb was making is that there are multiple avenues that you can take a look at, whether it's a bank, whether it's an insurance
Right.
investment, or stocks.
And I still believe that, so none of those people are fiduciaries because they are representatives of the insurance industry, and therefore they are the hammer that sees insurance as the nail, or the other, right?
I'm that person because that's what my licenses and credentials are. But Casa Esperanza has hired licensed fiduciaries, and it's our client's best interest that we have to sit with. And legally, we have to protect them. So if somebody does sit with us and we don't want anything to do with insurance, by all means, there's somebody that is sitting next to me that can definitely.
I think we have to leave it here, but this was not a session meant to pitch any specific product or any specific provider, so I think we should stop this here.
We are getting to the top of the hour, and we do have this space until 6.
Okay.
I'm happy to entertain or even answer more questions. We do formal introductions, but my name is Raul, I'm with the World Partners Network, Michael Kimber. I mentioned my name to you guys in the beginning, but what we do is we do a lot of work with individuals, small governments, small businesses, and our job is to connect local community members to federal resources. And so I've got my card. I'm happy to talk to you guys more about not so much investment strategies, but maybe what we can do to partner with you moving forward as we recover as a community, not only economically, but ecologically and socially, right? And
I don't see a form where like these nonprofits can come. I mean, this windfall, we're gonna get money that we never expected.
And so you guys are in the driver's seat.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Right,
And so
so-
I mean, I don't even know what some of these, nonprofits do, right? I like to, I'm with my friend, I like to just turn over my money, but it's like raining money, guys. And we can be generous with a little of it, and but I don't know the different organizations.
So when it comes to nonprofits, I'm working with the community foundation, and I think there will be some more initiatives around presenting the different causes, the different charities that are here, and kind of giving you a better idea of how you can help the community.
I was thinking, the dog and the homeless, that right there, where that
Right.
park is ridiculous. I mean, how do they recognize? I don't know.
There's-
One of the other things is that, we have to work with the city because the city is not the easiest person to get businesses in here.
Right.
Put it that way.
And I hear that, yeah, real estate and all of that is, yeah. There, but it is, I think we need to get a more, a climate where there is more exchange of ideas, where we feel comfortable discussing this, and it's not about, the level of your claim and what you personally are gonna do, it's really bigger picture, but we need to learn from each other, and that's also how we then get influence with our political figures, who can, on the side of the city, make changes that are meaningful. You get the closing comment.
It's a question. Is there a better investment strategy based on the amount of money you have, whether that's a bank, insurance, or stock market? Say you're either 100,000, 500,000, or we're talking 2, 3 million, or whatever the case may be. Is there a preferred investment strategy based on the amount of money you have?
Not so much. It really think about it as those, again, I come back to the same thing, the buckets of when are you gonna need it, right? So if you get 100,000 and you're gonna need 10 now, 50 to do something, that leaves 40 for the long term, and you make that same segregation when you get millions, right? If you get millions, you're likely to be able to put more into the long-term bucket, right? Because it's gonna be really hard to be spending in the next 3 years, to be spending $1 million or $2 million. Just because you won't even find the people who can come and do the work for you if you needed it on your property, right? So it really is the timeline that you will look at spending that money in that is the biggest driver for the strategy of where you allocate how much.
And the risk.
Yeah,
Is
so,
that helpful? Yeah.
okay, I'm gonna have Michael close us out, but before we do that, let's all give Miss Barbara.
You were a great audience with good questions. Thank you.
I got to have the first word, so I also get to have the last word. Let me just give you my advice. I'm not a financial planner, but don't be in a hurry to do something with your money. Don't be in a hurry for that. Do your research, look around, learn as much as you can, go to the internet and learn as much as you can, learn about all these investment companies, learn about stocks and bonds, learn about real estate investment, whatever it is you have an interest in. Excuse me. So please don't rush into anything. Learn as much as you can, and when you feel comfortable, that's when you make your move, okay? I want to thank you. I think the questions were awesome, very, very well thought out questions, and I wish you all the best of luck.
Thank you.
Good, man. Happy holidays.